Okay, I think we'll get going. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. This is a public informational meeting for Project 82316, which is the reconfiguration of the Route 17 on-ramp to Route 9 North in the city of Middletown. After this formal presentation, there will be a live question and answer session. You can also use the project email address, which I have listed below, and is going to be listed in a couple other spots throughout the presentation. We have a phone line for call-in as well to leave voicemails to ask questions. And then the last link you see there is the project webpage. We will have a recording of this presentation on YouTube. Unfortunately, the YouTube live interface is not working. However, we have the ability to record it and post that to YouTube subsequent to the meeting. So as I mentioned, after the presentation, there will be a formal question and answer session. There are a few ways for you to get those questions in. The best method, the preferred method, would be to use the Zoom chat. That's the interface right in front of you there. We also have the email address you can send messages. And of course, as I mentioned before, there's voicemail. We'll try and get the email and voicemail questions answered during the Q&A session, but if not, we'll certainly address those in the coming days and hope to send a response. So if you do have a question, make sure you leave some type of contact information so we can get back to you. And we have extended the comment period. So October 27th was a formal month-long comment period to receive those comments. So Title VI, so we do have a demographic survey. I'm going to post that link in the chat. It is optional. We do request that you fill it out just to get an idea of who's here, but again, it is optional. And under Title VI, of course, no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. We have 2 civil rights flyers available in both English and Spanish, and I'll post those links as well into the chat later on in the meeting. So the agenda for tonight, I'm going to quickly go into the introduction of the team. We're going to talk about some existing conditions. We're going to go into the crash analysis, talk about what the actual proposed improvements are, the impacts during construction, and then the question and answer session at the end. So take a look at the project team. This is definitely a multidisciplinary project. It's primarily been designed by DOT Bridge Design and Highway Design with support from the DOT Rights-of-Way unit. So Matthew Vail is the principal engineer of the Highway Design unit. My name is Stephen Hall. I'm the project manager, and I'm joined by Bill Nicole, who is the project engineer from the engineering side of the house. We have Jacob Platt, who is our DOT bridge engineer. And then we have 2 representatives from construction who will take over the project once it goes to a contractor, and that's Seth Burgess and David Gentile. Last but not least, we have Matt Giannakopoulos, who's helped us out with the rights-of-way process for this project. So this project is located in the city of Middletown in Middlesex County. You see on the right side here with north facing up, we have the Connecticut River on the east side. We have Route 9 North and the Aragoni Bridge over the Connecticut River. Now we have a few projects in the area, and you'll notice I've rotated the orientation. So now we have north over to the right, we have the Connecticut River on the bottom. Since about 2014, we've been developing projects in this area. So I wanted to pause and make sure that we all understand the different projects and what we have going on. So again, we have Route 9 North from left to right on this page. We have Route 17 northbound that overlaps Route 9 and goes up and over the Aragoni Bridge. One of the first projects we did back in 2019 was 82319. What this project did was it constructed sidewalk bump outs on Main Street with the goal to improve pedestrian safety, shorten the crossing distances, and also take that extra green time that we've saved, give that back to the cars on Main Street to try and encourage cars to use Main Street and not the side streets to cut through. This project, again, was completed in about 2019. The next project we did was 82320. This was completed in 2020. The purpose of this project was safety and congestion reduction. So again, we're trying to make the operations on Main Street better to encourage vehicles to use Main Street and not cut through Spring Street, past McDonough School, Grand Rapallo, things of that nature. We fixed a dangerous signal configuration at Rapallo and Grand, where both legs had a green light, so we've been able to increase safety there. We've also fixed a lot of the parking in the north end. There were very small parking stalls before. We had a lot of sideswipe crashes with cars parking there. We were able to improve the size of those parking stalls and bring that back up to standard. The next project we have that's not yet constructed, but is designed is 82322. Now, this project came about as a result of the 2018 public informational meeting regarding the larger signal removal project. The purpose of this project is to close off the Miller Street access to Route 9. Right now, that's the only access into or out of that neighborhood because of an at-grade railroad crossing that's closed. So 82-322 will open up that railroad crossing and close off the Miller Street access to Route 9, allowing that neighborhood normal, safe access through downtown as opposed to entering onto Route 9. So again, this project is designed. The design is completed. However, there's a rather long railroad procurement process. So construction will begin in spring of 2024 for this project. The next project is the subject of today's meeting. That's 82-316. Safety project to reconfigure the Route 17 on-ramp to Route 9 northbound. We're going to get into significant detail on this project, certainly in the coming slides. Lastly, we have project 82-318, which is a signal removal project. This is the large project, right? This is the project that we've shown to the public a number of times. It proposes to remove the traffic signals on Route 9. This project is still in design. So in the past couple of years, we have been doing a traffic analysis and we're preparing to go back to the public in the winter of 2022, early 2023. And just to reiterate, the reason I'm showing these all separately is, again, these all have independent utility. So when we evaluate these projects, we ensure that, and the federal highway ensures that, we are actually fixing a problem, and this project stands alone on its own. This project doesn't need other projects to be a good project, so to speak. There's a purpose and need for each of these that we have accomplished. So now to get into some existing conditions, some quick orientation. You'll see north is about 10 o'clock on the top left of your page here. Route 17 goes up and over Route 9 to the stop controlled intersection or interchange here. Quick look at some of the lines we have. We have this blue line's our 100-year floodplain, and you'll see that throughout these plans, and that really limits how much we can do as far as fill. That area is designed to handle floodwater, so anything we fill in that area could lead to flooding elsewhere. We have the Providence and Worcester Railroad tracks you see in yellow here. We have some red lines for rights-of-way lines that show private property and proposed private property acquisition. And then we have some wetlands and stream channel lines around Sumner Brook. So again, Route 17 up and over Route 9 to the stop controlled interchange. So what we have at this location is we have obviously a stop sign. Vehicles have to look over their left shoulder at a very acute angle, and they need to try and identify a gap in traffic when cars are traveling 55 miles per hour. So a vehicle in this position needs to find that gap far over their shoulder and quickly accelerate to avoid getting into a collision. As we move further north, the width of Route 9 is constrained by Bridge 638, which carries Route 9 over Union Street and the Providence and Worcester Railroad. As you take a look below Route 9, we see this is Union Street here. We have the railroad crossing. Currently, we only have one pedestrian crossing, and that's on the north side of Union Street. There is a rutted out path. However, there's no safe pedestrian access across the tracks here. And this really is the gateway to the riverfront of Middletown. Moving a little bit further north, we're going to look at Harbor Drive. So Harbor Drive is a low-speed local access road to the riverfront that also serves Route 9. If we take a look at Harbor Drive a little further back, you look at the picture, you see the old canoe club. If you were a local in the area, you wouldn't think this was an on-ramp to a freeway. However, as we move a little bit further up Route 9, you see the interchange with Harbor Drive and Route 9. There is no stop control at this location. However, there really is not much more of an acceleration lane. So a lot of vehicles will take this option onto Route 9 to avoid the previous stop controlled interchange between Route 17 and Route 9. However, it's really not a safer option. So now we're going to take a look at Main Street Extension location. So we're a little bit further south. We've got Middlesex Hospital here. We have Route 17 that's going to fly up and over onto Route 9. And I've rotated the orientation here a little bit. So you'll see north is about 1 o'clock. So what we have here is we have the Route 17 southbound off-ramp and on-ramp at an offset configuration. And the reason why they're offset is because of Hubbard Park. Ideally, we would have these two legs adjacent or across from each other so that we could have more normal operations. And this interchange really serves as a southern access to downtown. Again, close to Middlesex Hospital, able to bypass a lot of the small local roads and gain access to the south of Middletown. But we have a couple less than stellar operations in this area. Taking a look at this location here, so merging up from from Main Street Extension onto Route 17, we have a weave condition. What that basically means is we have 2 lanes of traffic with a third entering here that splits off into Route 9 North and Route 9 South. We have driver uncertainty where one driver is trying to cross left while one's trying to cross right. It's not an ideal scenario. Also on Main Street Extension, if we take a look, we have very wide pavement structure, very wide pavement. We've got on-street parking on one side and pedestrian access only on one side. You see there's actually pedestrians walking here, possibly to the hospital, where they might work with no pedestrian facilities. So let's take a look at the crash diagram here, really the impetus for this project. So I mentioned that the stop control interchange causes a lot of crashes. So when we take a look at the crash diagram, what we're trying to do is find patterns. We're trying to find the cause of these crashes and then how we can fix it. So as we look at this diagram, we've got 3 major types of crashes. We have fixed object, where a vehicle would strike a stationary object off the side of the road, a utility pole, light pole, something of that nature. A rear end collision, which is rather self-explanatory, and then a side swipe, which is also rather self-explanatory. And as we look at the total number of crashes over 3 years, we see that we have 340 crashes with 60 injuries. And this is from 2018 to 2020. Of those 340 crashes, 332 of them are rear end crashes. It's a tremendously high percentage. And we see a few nodes where these crashes occur. The most obvious node would be right at that stop control interchange, where we have 244 crashes and 49 injuries in just a 3-year period. For a number of years, this was the second worst interchange of the state, and it's always given us problems. So what this shows us is, we have a vehicle that's probably looking for a gap in traffic on Route 9, and the vehicle behind them may also be looking over their left shoulder, looking for that gap in traffic. A lot of times that first vehicle might not accelerate and the second one does, causing that rear end collision. Additionally, there's a very high speed differential between a car stopped on Route 17 and a car traveling 55 miles per hour on Route 9. So if a vehicle takes a gap that may be too small, certainly there's a possibility for a rear end collision as well, causing maybe more injuries given the higher speeds. And then we also have a node back here where we have a decent number of rear ends that we can attribute to the queue. So the traffic that backs up, a vehicle coming around the corner may not, expect that queue to be there. And that's where we see some of those rear end crashes as well. So we can really pin these rear end crashes to the stop control configuration that we have from Route 17 onto Route 9. So the purpose and need of this project is safety. The purpose of this project is to reduce rear end crashes at the Route 9 and the Route 17 interchange. The project is needed because the existing stop controlled on-ramp from Route 17 onto Route 9 has a crash rate significantly higher than similar adjacent segments of freeway. Essentially, we identified this location, how many crashes we would expect, and how many crashes we experience. So when there's a large discrepancy, that raises a red flag that allows us to investigate further and find solutions. So now to some project history. This project's been around for a little bit, as I mentioned before. September of 2014 was the first time this project was shown to the public. We had a public informational meeting, workshop style, with about 40 attendees. Generally well received, really no negative comments. So fast forward a couple more years, 2016. In that time, we further developed the project, but we also brought out 82318, which is that signal removal project. So in 2016, we showed 2 separate projects, 82316, 82318. Most of the comments revolved around the larger signal removal project. However, again, we really had no negative feedback on 82316, the Route 17 to Route 9 interchange. From 2017 to 2019, we spent that time developing adjacent projects downtown that I alluded to earlier. We built 82319, which is the bump outs on Main Street. We constructed 82320, the St. John's Square improvements. I mentioned 82322, which is the Miller Street access that's going to be going out to construction shortly, and then 82316, which we've been developing over this time. Excuse me. In January of 2021, we began monthly progress meetings with the city. We felt this was the best way to ensure that the city's plans for the downtown area really align with what we were designing early in the process to avoid needing to go back and do much redesign. So those were monthly meetings that we were able to discuss the city's goals, our goals, and make sure we were aligned. In July of 2021, the project went through what's called a value engineering review. And this review happens for more expensive projects to ensure that we're properly spending funds. So what this process involves is a third-party consultant engineering firm that goes through our proposed design and tries to find ways to save money, to make innovation, and to generally just get a fresh set of eyes on things without any preconceived notions about the project. And what this process did for us was, as opposed to widening Route 9 to the east, closer to the Connecticut River, which we had originally planned on, that required some associated work on Harbor Drive and River Road, we can actually widen the structure to the west. So we can hold the east edge of road on Route 9. We can eliminate any work we would have had to do on River Road. We can eliminate the need to acquire any property on the riverfront and really just set the riverfront up for success. So that was a tremendous process. It did set us back a little bit to redesign that western widening. However, it did make a lot of things work a lot easier for us as we move forward. So a tremendous process there. In December 2021, we began heavy coordination with the city through Cooper Robertson, who's their master planning lead for the Return to the Riverbend initiative. And the goal of this was to take the information that Cooper Robertson had gathered from their public outreach, their workshops on some of the goals and desires of the residents, talk to them and see what they foresee that being as part of our project. So we're looking at aesthetic treatments, different pedestrian access. It was a very useful conversation, one that will continue to move forward as this project progresses. And then lastly, in February of 2022, this project received federal stimulus money. So we had a press conference with Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, basically just touting the project and talking about the benefits that this project can bring to the downtown area. So that was really good to get the support from that end. Okay, so proposed improvements. So now that I've been talking a bunch, what are we doing here exactly? All right, so you'll see you're looking at the Route 17 flyover over Route 9 again at that stop controlled interchange. Right, so what we propose to do again is eliminate that stop controlled interchange. As we're looking northbound in the existing condition, we have this yellow section break. So we're looking northbound on Route 9, that corresponds to this cross section right here. So we have Route 9 northbound on the right side, southbound coming into the page on the left side. So this is our existing configuration of Bridge 638, 2 lanes northbound, 2 lanes southbound. This constraint is what prevents us from adding that additional lane to provide appropriate acceleration for these vehicles. So what we plan on doing is completely reconstructing Bridge 638. So again, that bridge is too narrow for us to fit that extra lane. So we're going to replace the bridge in total. And I'm actually going to pull that animation back. I want you to focus on the east edge of road. So we're keeping the east edge of road where it is. All the widening will occur on the west edge of road here. So no work east of Route 9, and we're not doing any more work on River Road. There's no need to acquire any property in that area. And what this does for us is it allows us to construct a full length acceleration lane on Route 9. You'll see in the cross section here, same location, looking northbound through the bridge. We'll now have 3 lanes northbound, with the far right being the acceleration lane, 2 northbound lanes, and then of course 2 southbound lanes. So some of the major features, again, full length acceleration lane eliminates the need for that stop control configuration. There's going to be a full replacement of Bridge 638 carrying Route 9 over Union Street. We have retaining walls on the west side of Route 9, and part of our coordination with the city and with Cooper Robertson, we're going to be going with a brownstone style aesthetic treatment to try and match St. John's Church. Obviously, brownstone is a very big, important part of the area. We're going to be adding additional pedestrian access across Union Street as well. If you recall, the only pedestrian access right now is on the north side. There's a rutted out path, but no safe means to cross. So we're going to be providing 2 ADA compliant safe pedestrian passages across the railroad crossing. Again, this is the gateway to downtown. There's lots of plans to develop the riverfront. Now is the time to put that additional pedestrian crossing in there. And lastly, in the area, we have some great landscaping. Our landscape design unit was chomping at the bit to do some designs in this area to really help to integrate our design with the riverfront development. So we're very excited to see that design go in. I will mention there is a proposed sliver acquisition of the personal auto care property. We met with the property owner. It is a land-only acquisition. Basically, we need that space off our retaining wall to make sure we can properly maintain it. We've confirmed with him that this won't affect his operations on a day-to-day basis. Moving a little bit further north, we're looking at the Harbor Drive area, north oriented the same way, about 10 o'clock. We have Route 9 north, right to left, Route 9 south, left to right, and we have Harbor Drive at the top of the screen here. So again, Harbor Drive really wants to be a low-speed roadway that services Harbor Park and the riverfront. It does not want to be a on-ramp to a freeway, I believe. So when we come through with this project, when we construct our full-length acceleration lane from Route 17 to Route 9, we obviously have to lengthen it. We have to lengthen it enough to ensure that vehicles entering Route 17 are at about the same running speed as the vehicles on Route 9. That low speed differential helps to dramatically improve safety and reduce the severity of the crashes that we might see. But because of that lengthening of this acceleration lane, the proximity is too close to Harbor Drive, creates a very unsafe condition for drivers. Additionally, given the riverfront development at Harbor Park, we felt that it was contextually sensitive to close off the access to Harbor Drive. Again, you see some more of that landscaping here, really trying to tie in our facilities with the riverfront area. Now, when we do close off Harbor Drive, as I alluded to before, we're going to be redistributing a decent number of vehicles. Of all the vehicles that want to get to Route 9 North, half are going on Harbor Drive and then half are taking Route 17. So there's a tremendous amount of vehicles that are avoiding the stop-controlled on-ramp that we're trying to fix, and opting for Harbor Drive, which really is not a safer configuration. So we're in 2045, so projected volumes, we're looking to remove 7,900 vehicles per day from Harbor Drive. So these are vehicles that would just be entering Route 9, conceivably accelerating rather quick down at this location to get onto Route 9 and meet speed. So we're taking Harbor Drive and turning it back into a low-speed urban road, giving access to the riverfront and providing safe acceleration for those vehicles from Route 17 to Route 9. Now, since we are redistributing all those vehicles, we need to accommodate them to get them back onto Route 17 and Route 9. And that's the impetus for the work at Main Street Extension. So those 7,900 vehicles will now be using this location to access Route 17, Route 9. So again, a quick orientation here. We have that offset diamond configuration. It does not do well for traffic operations. And again, that's because of Hubbard Park's proximity to the freeway. So our proposed scope of work is to first realign the Route 17 southbound on-ramp from Main Street Extension. So we can't move the southbound off-ramp due to Hubbard Park. By realigning the southbound on-ramp, we can now signalize this intersection, modify the lane configuration, and more than adequately handle the 7,900 vehicles that we're removing from Harbor Drive to pull them through Main Street Extension. Additionally, we have this weave scenario here that I was discussing. We analyzed this with a few different traffic analysis softwares, and we determined that the volumes were low enough that we can actually just hold one lane coming across Route 17 here and simplify the weave to 2 lanes. So as opposed to 3 lanes, very poorly striped, we're going to have 2 lanes, simplify the operations, and hopefully improve safety throughout the weave. We're also adding additional pedestrian access on Main Street Extension. So right now, the only access is on the east side of the road. We're adding in a whole additional sidewalk on the west side. Again, given the traffic generators with the hospital, given the pedestrians we see out there, we felt it was appropriate to add that pedestrian connectivity throughout the corridor here. Lastly, in this area, we have a noise wall. So the noise analysis determined that a noise wall was feasible and prudent, basically saying that it would help and that it was a good choice. We then actually queried the property owners in the area, the residents, and they agreed as well. So we have discussed this with the residents of this neighborhood here, and that noise wall should help to reduce undue sound they're hearing. So in summary, we're going to reconfigure the Route 17 southbound on-ramp. There's going to be a new traffic signal at just the northern intersection. The southern intersection operates without any signalization required. There's going to be a noise wall along the Route 17 northbound access to help with Flower Street, and then that additional pedestrian access route on the west side of Main Street. And as I alluded to before, the redistributions of the 7,900, 6,200 of those are going to be coming through here, and we're actually going to drop another 2,500 more in that area. So a tremendous reduction. We're going to get these vehicles where we would rather have them go, which is Route 17 to Route 9, not Union Street to Harbor Drive to get onto Route 9. So let's summarize. What are the benefits of this project? So first and foremost, improve safety. The removal of stop control and the extension of the acceleration lane allows us to dramatically reduce the number of rear-end crashes that we see. We see a clear pattern of rear-end crashes in the area. We can attribute that to the stop sign, and we have a solution to remove that stop sign and remove that unsafe condition. The lower speed differential will be a tremendous help in not necessarily the number of crashes, but the severity of crashes as well. So talking about reducing the 60 injuries that we see out there, a smaller speed differential will certainly help that. We're going to remove about 7,000 vehicles per day on Harbor Drive. And this directly aligns with the city's return to the Riverbend initiative. Eli Cannons and Nora have been setting up shop down there, trying to get, a whole area down the riverfront. That's not a spot for a freeway on-ramp. That's a spot for a low-speed urban road. And this seems the city seems to agree in that. And that's something we got out of that press conference back in February. And we're also going to improve pedestrian connectivity along Union Street and Main Street. So 2 locations we found abilities to add additional pedestrian crossing. Again, Union Street across the railroad, and then Main Street extension heading on the west side of the road. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Matt Giannakopoulos. Matt is in part of our division of rights of way, and he's going to discuss the process for some property acquisition.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Like he said, I'm Matt Giannakopoulos. I'm a project coordinator with the department's division of rights of way. So it's our office's responsibility to acquire the property rights that are needed for transportation projects. As Steve alluded to earlier in the presentation, the proposed design does require an acquisition from a small portion of property to allow for the reconstruction of the Union Street Bridge. So I'm here tonight just to give a brief overview of our right-of-way acquisition process. So all property rights will be acquired in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes sections 13A-73 and 13A-98E. And whenever federal money is used in any phase of a project, such as this one, the department must adhere to what is known as the Uniform Act. Now, at this point, let me go to the next slide, Steve. At this point, the affected property owners have been sent a letter of intent to acquire from our office, and it depicts the exact rights to be acquired. And we're in the process of obtaining an appraisal to determine the fair market value of those rights. We'll use that value to establish an offer of just compensation. That offer is then sent out to the owner in writing, and a right-of-way agent from our office is available to meet with the owner, and they can in more detail explain the project, the impacts to the property, and explain how the state came up with its offer. The owner has a reasonable time to consider the offer and enter into negotiations. Once an agreement is reached, the DOT prepares all the necessary paperwork to transfer those rights. And so they'll record a deed and the property map on the town land records. However, if negotiations reach an impasse, in order to allow the project to move forward, the DOT may acquire the rights it needs through its power of eminent domain. So what happens in that case is the DOT files a notice in the local superior court along with a monetary deposit in the amount of the state's offer. The property owner has 6 months from that date to file an appeal if they felt that the state's offer was inadequate. Whether or not the owner chooses to use their right to appeal, the money that was deposited in the court, the owner can apply to withdraw that at any time. So I know a lot of people hear eminent domain and they think it means the state can just take your property for $1, but that's not the case. Definitely not here. The owners are entitled to at least that offer of just compensation, and the state can only take title to the property rights that it needs to allow the project to move forward. That's just a brief overview. We'll get into more details with the impacted owners. I'll be here for the Q&A session. But in the meantime, I'm going to hand it back to Steve to continue with his presentation.
All right, thank you, Matt. Just to put everyone at ease, to reiterate, there is only that one private property acquisition that we are seeking, and we've been discussing that with the property owner, so no surprises. Okay, so now I'd like to get into the construction staging. So we've shown the proposed improvements. Now we want to show how we're going to actually go about building this. So there's going to be 10 stages. So try and bear with me here, but I'll try and keep this rather simplified. The first thing we're going to do is Main Street extension, and this is going to begin spring, summer 2023 and last about 3 months. The major work in this stage is going to be to relocate the Route 17 southbound on-ramp from Main Street extension. This may require a detour via Pleasant and South Main, but that would be a very short duration. And one of the reasons why we're doing this work first is because if you think about the redistributions from the Route 17 on-ramp, we're going to send a lot of vehicles to Main Street Extension once that on-ramp's operational. So we need to make sure this location is operational prior to redistributing all those vehicles from Route 17. So we have it staged this way. We have stipulations in the contract that forces the contractor to build it in this order. However, I will mention that these are suggesting construction contract sequences, suggested sequence. We will receive submissions from the contractor that the department will have to review and approve to ensure that we're not the undue stress to parades downtown, riverfront development, things of that nature. So you see that the orange area here and for the rest of the slides represents the rough work area. And as I mentioned, the first stage we're going to do is going to be to relocate that Route 17 southbound on-ramp so that it's actually across from the southbound off ramp. So the southbound on will come across from the off, right? So once we get that reconfigured, the next thing we're going to do is the pedestrian improvements and the drainage improvements off the edge of the road. So this is still spring, summer 2023, about 3 more months of work, kind of offline, doing the sidewalks, the drainage. We have to install the traffic signal. And then from that point, we're going to mill and overlay the pavement. So the orange you see here will be, the pavement will be removed. There may be some bridge work that will rear its ugly head once we pull that pavement off that may cause some problems, but we're expecting something along those lines. And then we're going to put back new pavement. So when we move on to Route 17 and Route 9, the location you're looking at here is going to have fresh pavement markings. It's not going to feel like you're driving through a construction site. So stage 4. So once we get Main Street Extension all done, the next thing we're going to do is work on the flyover from Route 17 to Route 9. If you can picture this location, there's actually a curb on the left side, on the inside of the road here. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to remove that, and we're going to give a nice flat cross section across the ramp to allow more space for a broken down vehicle. So what this stage involves is rehabilitation of this structure. Now we do anticipate some issues with the structure here, so this might be a little bit longer than anticipated. However, the goal is to remove the pavement, to rehabilitate the structure, and to replace it with fresh pavement. You see, we'll do this in 2 different stages. So you see the first part of this, we'll run traffic on the right side, and we'll construct the left. And then once the right side is done, we're going to shift traffic over to the left and vice versa. So stage 5. So stage 5 is where we begin the bridge construction, the heavy part of the construction here. This is going to be winter 2023 to spring 2024. You will note that there is no winter shutdown for this project. A lot of our projects will stop working for the winter. We want to get in and get out of this project as fast as possible. We're not going to sacrifice quality. There's certain things they have to do during the winter, but it's important for us not to have this job open for 5 years. We want to try and get this buttoned up and get things back to normal as soon as possible. So winter 23 to spring of 24, looking at about a 9-month duration. And the first thing we're going to do is construct the southbound section of Bridge 638. So the existing cross section remains. We're going to still maintain 2 lanes northbound, 2 lanes southbound, and offline, so adjacent to the freeway, we're going to build this new structure. So this orange area here is new structure, new widening to move that freeway over to the west. We're also going to do some work on exit 14. We may require a minor closure of that, but these are all pretty short durations that we're looking at. And again, we'll still fit 2 lanes each direction. There will be some slightly reduced lane widths, but certainly adequate for the design speed and the volumes of the area. After stage 5, we go into stage 6. So this is summer 24 to spring of 25. So at this point, we've constructed that westernmost portion of the bridge, and we're going to move to remove and reconstruct the center portion of the bridge. So major work in this section will be to reconstruct the center portion of the structure. We're going to run northbound, southbound traffic on that newly constructed structure. And this will allow us to demolish the structure and then construct a new one in the center portion. And in this configuration, there still is going to be stop control on the on-ramp. So we're going to have stop control on the on-ramp until that's fully constructed. Look at that stage 7, the last of our major bridge stages. At this point, we've constructed westernmost and the central portion of the bridge. Now we're going to look at the easternmost portion of that structure. So here we're running traffic on 9 southbound on that relatively new structure. We've got the center structure up and running, and now all the way to the east, we're going to construct the east side there. So again, major work, construct the northbound section of Bridge 638. maintaining 2 lanes of traffic in each direction. We're looking at summer of 24 to spring of 2025. Each of these bridge stages is rather robust, and they take a good amount of time. So stage 8. So at this point, we have the bridge fully constructed. However, we need to do some approach work. In order to maintain 2 lanes of traffic, we just simply can't open up the entire site all at once. So what stage 8 is going to do, it's about a 2-month duration in the spring of 2026. It's going to work on some of the approach work, closing in some of the gaps that we have with our pavement. Moving on to stage 9, very similar. This is going to be the approach work and some wrap-up work on the southbound lane. Getting everything back up to grade. There is a rather large elevation change at a couple spots, so we have to step up the elevations a little bit. And then our last stage, stage 10, at this point for stage 10, the last thing we have to do is the median barrier. So we'll have traffic running on all the way to the east, all the way to the west, and we're going to have a work area down the center to construct that single slope median barrier, improving safety there tremendously. So then to recap, this is our final condition, right? So this is focusing on the ramp configuration. This is our permanent condition. We have our Route 17 flyover. We have not widened anything over to the east, no impacts to the east aside from that landscaping. We've widened the structure over to the west. So we've now provided an acceleration lane, a free flow acceleration lane without having to stop for vehicles coming over Route 17, all the way up to Route 9 North to gradually merge into traffic. We're maintaining those 2 lanes northbound and 2 lanes southbound. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Seth Burgess. Seth is a construction project manager, and he's going to talk a little bit about the specifics of what you'll see in construction. So Seth, please take it away.
Perfect. Good evening, and thank you, Steve. My name is Seth Burgess, supervising engineer from District 1 Construction, and I am joined by Mr. David Gentile, who will be the project engineer overseeing this project. As previously mentioned, we're anticipating the start of construction in early 2023 with anticipated project completion at the end of 2026 season. District 1 Construction will take over as a lead point of contact in regard to administration of this project following the award of the contract. All on-site contractor operations will have inspection staff present to verify compliance with appropriate contract specifications. We anticipate large impacts to the traveling public, which will require constant oversight and communication and coordination in regards to the maintenance and protection of traffic staging that's going to be implemented, as Steve has detailed in the past couple slides. Though these impacts may be large in relation to normal commutes of the public that goes through this area, construction will be temporary over a few-year duration and provide a much safer and efficient flow of traffic for years to come. Connecticut DOT representatives will work to coordinate with the City of Middletown to mitigate any traffic interference with large city events. And we also request continuous assistance and understanding from all stakeholders in regards to impacts to existing roadways during construction in hopes of increasing work zone safety for all, including the public, the contractor, and Connecticut DOT representatives. Concerns will be addressed in a timely manner to keep all in the area safe and keep the construction project moving forward. Just want to say thank you, Steve, for the opportunity, and we look forward to enhancing the infrastructure through this area. So with that, I'll kick it back to you, Steve.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Seth. Okay, so project schedule and cost. So we're going to advertise this project October 27th with bids opening to contractors on November 30th. We expect to award the project January 27th with a construction start date March 13th. As Seth mentioned, we expect to complete this project by the fall of 2026, and it's a construction cost of about $54 million. So at this point, that's the end of our formal presentation. As I alluded to before, there is a question and answer session. So as I mentioned, the Zoom chat's preferred. I see we already have one question in the Zoom chat. Zoom chat will be preferred. It's the easiest way for us to get a quick answer. However, we are also monitoring the project email and also the phone if you leave a voicemail. So with that, I'm going to jump right into it. So from Stephen Bailey, we have a question. So any concerns with crossovers to exit 15 westbound? So I see what you're saying. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up a plan to kind of discuss that. Okay, hopefully at this point, we're looking at Google Earth. And so I think what you're referring to is we've got this acceleration lane from Route 9, and there's a concern that there might be traffic cutting over to Washington Street here. And that's something we did look at, as we evaluated the larger signal removal project. So when we're looking at doing work at Washington, we actually thought about that. And the fact of the matter is we're not too concerned about the distance between that merge and Washington Street, nor the number of vehicles that we would make in that move. If you look at the drive to make that movement, it's a very low volume movement is really what it comes down to. So essentially what it comes down to is we identified that as possibly an issue. We don't think there is enough of a drive for someone to take that unless perhaps they made a wrong turn. So we expect it'll be a minor occurrence, and we don't see a major safety issue with that distance either. But thank you very much. That was a good question. Okay, question number 2. Perfect. So from Jane Harris. So when do you anticipate the ramp from Harbor Drive will close? When that happens, all vehicles from Harbor Park will have to reach Route 9 via Union Street and either Main Street or Main Street Extension. With brownfield work at Harbor Park beginning, won't this additional traffic exacerbate issues on Main Street? So the Harbor Drive ramp will close when we open the new on-ramp. So that's going to be one of the last stages. So I think that's fall of 2025. So essentially, we're not going to open that new ramp until the infrastructure around it is set up to handle that additional flow of traffic. So as you mentioned, vehicles that were traveling on Harbor Drive to get to Route 9 would take Union Street, come to Main Street Extension, take Route 9, Route 17 to Route 9 North. So while it's a large change in traffic operations, that's one of the reasons why we did a rather extensive traffic analysis on this. So we took a look at all the traffic volumes in both Synchro and Vism, so 2 proprietary traffic analysis programs that both look at individual intersections as well as the network as a whole. So we have essentially the entire downtown area modeled. So what we do is we calibrate that model to our existing conditions, and then we extrapolate that out with our proposed conditions to ensure that we are properly handling the redistributed traffic. And there are certain standards that we have to meet as far as calibration, federal guidelines to give a certain level of confidence that what we're proposing is actually going to happen. And all that's to say that, we've looked at the redistributions, and that's one of the reasons why you see that new lane configuration on Main Street Extension is to handle the extra vehicles and looking at not just at Main Street Extension, but how they got from Harbor Drive all the way to Main Street Extension. So we're not just taking 2 points, but the actual path between them. So hopefully that answered your question. I'm just going to go back and check to make sure. I believe so. Certainly follow up if I did not. The next question, Robert Hurwitz. Will all lights on Route 9 be eliminated? So as part of this project, no traffic signals on Route 9 are going to be eliminated. The 82318, which is a separate project, which is the removal of the traffic signals on Route 9, proposes to remove 2 traffic signals. However, this project will just focus on the Route 17, Route 9 interchange. And so they will not be removing any of the traffic signals on Route 9. There will be a public informational meeting for that project, hopefully December, January, sometime around winter 2022, 2023. There is illumination, just in case you were referring to illumination and not traffic signals, there is illumination work as part of this project. So one of the things we did is we reviewed from Route 17 all the way up Route 9, do we have proper illumination? And we were able to go through and redesign that to really improve the illumination as well. So third question. So is there anything that can be done to reduce the speed of Route 9 northbound traffic south of the entrance from Route 17 until the merging lane is added? So I believe you're referring to this area south of Route 17. So that's interesting. I can't say we've looked into traffic calming measures coming through there. One of the issues we have is not so much the speeds, but really the geometric. So it's not so much the vehicles are coming too fast on Route 9, but the sight lines are so poor from that stop controlled configuration that speed differential is enough. So, I can't say we've looked into traffic calming on Route 9 in this location, because with this S curve, we do have slightly reduced speeds. but not enough to create a safer condition between Route 9 and Route 17. Certainly, I appreciate the questions. I'll hang on for a while if there's any more, but there's certainly anything you've got. I will add that there is another project that will be going on in the area at about the same time. So as opposed to switching back to my slides, I'll say on Google Earth here, Bridge 636, a separate contract is going to do some repair work on that structure. We have a stipulation in our contract to prevent any kind of undue stress between the two contractors at the same time. We're not going to have them both working at the same time on the same structure. So all that to say is we're trying to deconflict a lot of different entities in the area to make sure that we're not causing tremendous backups on Route 9 or Route 17 or the downtown area as we're doing this work.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Just to add to that, that will be Dave Gentile on my project as well. So we'll be working with our two separate contractors and our inspection teams to kind of coordinate the work between the two projects to mitigate any negative traffic impacts between the two projects.
Okay, I'm going to put the slide back up with the ways to give questions and answers in case anyone needs a refresher. So again, Zoom chat preferred. We've also got the email address, and you can leave a voicemail on the phone as well. And as I mentioned, emails anytime. On October 27th is the formal comment period. I will always receive comments about any of our projects. And even if they don't get in during the meeting, I hope to answer all of these whenever they come in. So if you've got friends, family who missed the meeting, as I mentioned before, it's going to be saved on YouTube. You're able to go watch all of this again, send in questions up. Of course, the Zoom chat's only going to be operational during the meeting itself, but the emails and the voicemails certainly aren't going anywhere. So I can certainly receive questions that way as well. Okay, here we go. Next question. Oh no, I'm sorry. Those are the questions already asked. Those are already answered. So at this point, I think we'll give it till 8 o'clock tonight. I'll hang out awkwardly and stare into the screen and see if anyone has any more questions. So we got 10 more minutes or so here if anything comes to mind. Just a refresher, this is, again, the final conditions over the structure, looking northbound on Route 9. Okay, another question. Will your proposed plan help with congested traffic during rush hour? That's an interesting question. So I did allude to a very thorough traffic analysis that we did, and it's actually rather interesting. Long story short, the majority of the congestion caused on Route 9 and even back on Route 17 are from the traffic signals. So while we are improving safety on this at this location by removing the stop sign, we don't expect that we're going to have free flow operations on Route 9 because, again, we still have those traffic signals. So we're removing the speed differential and that safety issue, but this project is unfortunately not going to do wonders for congestion relief. You'll see some improvements on Main Street Extension. Certainly, you're going to have added vehicles, but I think the operations there have been improved enough to help mitigate those extra vehicles there and overall improve operations. Another question, does the project website include details about landscaping plans? Hope there will be an effort to keep healthy trees and plant many more. I can certainly upload those, and I can certainly send those to you as well. Yeah, there's been a lot of effort by our landscape unit to plant some nice things there. She actually is a local of Portland, so I think she has a vested interest in the area. But yes, I'll certainly post those online, and I hope to have those up by tomorrow. We can get those posted. We got two questions. Perfect. Will illumination be concentrated on the roadway so as not to increase light pollution? Yes. Short answer, yes. It's not designed to be illuminating anything but the roadway surface. It's roadway illumination. We're not proposing illumination of the landscaped areas or uplighting or things of that nature. I joined late, so I apologize if this has already been addressed. No problem whatsoever. How does your project tie into the removal of the lights on Route 9? Is there a flyover proposed for Route 9 to take care of the exits lost when lights are removed? So I will take you back to one of our earlier slides that discusses the different projects. So what this does here, this kind of shows everything all together. So your question was, does this tie into the removal of the traffic signals? So the project we're talking about now is this green outline box here. So we've got Route 17, Route 9, but it stops before it gets to Washington Street. The blue box is our proposed area for 82-318, which is the removal of the traffic signals. So they're directly connected. We have one crew working on all these jobs design wise. So while they're separate projects, they've been designed to at least tie in together and make sure that the geometrics and all that align. So we're not proposing the flyover was a previous proposal. It was an alternative 3 that we showed to the public in 2018. We're not going to be showing that proposal in the winter. There's going to be something a little different. Well, with that, everyone, thank you for joining. Again, feel free to pass this information on to friends, colleagues, family members. We'll still be accepting comments, certainly as time goes on throughout the comment period. Again, here's the slide, project email. This can all be found on the website as well, a few different ways to leave comments. So once again, thank you. I truly appreciate your interest in the project and attending this and asking questions. If anything comes up, please feel free to reach out.